guys, welcome back. I'm super excited. I'm here today with Donna Shaw over in Surrey, England, and she's here today to tell her really inspiring health recovery story. So Donna, thank you so much for doing this today.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm pleased to be here.
So let's dive right in. Take us back. How did this all start for you?
Oh, gosh, well, it all started back in April 2020, just as we went into lockdown. And I worked in a school and in a secondary school, and I was just about to get promoted to go and work in a college, which we worked with alongside. And then we heard that there might be this lockdown because of the virus, and there was this virus no one had heard of. But I wasn't really too worried about catching it at that point. And then we locked down. And my son had a very slight cough just as we locked down. And in fact, we all joked about it. We were like, oh, COVID, and joked. And then next day he felt fine.
We were so naive back then. It's really hard to put yourself in that headspace now, isn't it?
Well, it's really surreal, actually.
Like another lifetime.
And I just thought I was more worried actually about my husband getting COVID and my daughter. My daughter was 20 at the time. And then 3 days later, I just got this really odd cough. And I thought, oh, okay, maybe I've caught COVID. But again, I wasn't really too worried about it. I was quite fit and healthy, and I didn't have all these underlying health issues that everyone kept talking about. And then it just went super, super downhill really, really quickly. And I think even after 3 days, I couldn't really breathe properly. So we decided to go to the hospital. I think then I couldn't believe that I just felt so unwell. I've never really been unwell, and I wasn't worried about COVID for me. And so, but it all suddenly got really, really worrying really quick. And I think then, and the fatigue came on. It was like everything was just like wham, bam. You're really, really poorly. And so I couldn't even really get into the car to go to the hospital. I had to say goodbye to my kids, thinking, what's going on? Am I going to see my kids again? And my husband wasn't allowed in the hospital, and yet I was so poorly. I needed him to take me into the hospital. It was all just an absolute nightmare. And then, as it happened, I had test results done there and then, and they just said, look, you don't have pneumonia. Go home and see what happens when you go home. So I ended up back at home, and I was thinking, how is this happening? I'm so poorly, I can hardly breathe. And so we did about another 3 days, I think, at home, and then it just got horrendous again. I was really, really bad I had nausea and dizziness. I couldn't go to the toilet I had to hold on to walls. I couldn't do anything. I just thought, I don't know what's going on here. And again, they did tests. I had another chest x-ray, and they just said, look, you're all clear. You don't have pneumonia. We don't know what you're talking about. Because I was saying, I can't breathe. I don't know why I can't breathe. And I couldn't walk. I couldn't do anything. And they were just like, look, your test results are fine. Go home again. And then it started getting really, really worrying, where I think, and now looking back, I can see that it was my autonomic nervous system was possibly being completely, hit.
You think? Oh, I can't even imagine how terrifying that must have been. And this is April 2020. We didn't know anything in April of 2020.
No one knew anything, and
that must have been terrifying.
And all the only thing we had was the news, and the news just kept saying people were dying, and if you can't breathe, go to hospital. And people were going to hospital and not coming home. And at night, I can remember just stopping breathing, and I used to wake up just gasping for breath, and I just used to say to my husband, just if you wake up and I'm not breathing, just pack me in the car and just take me to A&E, because I'm just stopping breathing. I don't know what's going on. And it was just terrifying. I remember I used to go to bed holding his hand at night, thinking, I don't know if I'm going to wake up again. I don't know. And I had another symptom as well, that was my throat closing up, and it felt like someone was just strangling me, and I couldn't explain it to anybody. No one understood. The doctor just kept saying, I think it sounds like strep throat. And I was saying, well, it doesn't hurt. It just feels like someone's strangling. My throat's going to close at any minute. And no one got it. And so I was put on antibiotics, and I was given the spray, and no one could do anything. And I think the stress of not knowing now looking back, I can see that I was just so stressed about the whole thing that I think that then made everything much worse.
But even knowing that now, if you could go back, do you think there's a way to go through that and not be that stressed?
Do you know, I don't know. I don't know what I would do. It was just a very odd experience because I'd never been ill before. I'd never had to worry about myself. I've only ever worried about other people. And I've always thought if I was ill, I'm always fine. I've never had a day off sick that I can remember. And it was hard explaining it to people because people were like, well, with COVID, you've either got pneumonia and you're dying or you're okay. And it was hard to say, well, I don't have pneumonia, but for some reason I'm so poorly and I can't walk. And my doctor just kept saying, look, give it another couple of weeks and just see how you get on. And so I'd give it 2 more weeks and it would still be the same. And then she said, okay, well, I've heard of someone now, someone in my surgery, one of the doctors knows someone who's a doctor who's also not recovering, and she's about 3 weeks ahead of you, so give it another 3 weeks. And eventually I got to 12 weeks and I started sort of feeling a little bit like, okay, well, I think I'm getting a little bit better now. I wasn't dying anymore. I didn't feel like I was going to die, but I wasn't getting better. My throat was getting worse and no one could help me. But so it was trying to explain to my work, I still can't come back to work. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know what's wrong with my throat. I can't explain to you. It just feels like I'm being strangled. And I still have no energy. I can't walk or do anything.
But I don't have pneumonia, so apparently I'm fine.
Exactly. They're like, well, are you sure this is...
But do you have pneumonia? Nope. All right. Get your butt in here.
Exactly what it was like. And I wrote this email to HR. I remember writing an email. And when I read it back a few months later, it was just full of mistakes and errors and it didn't even make any sense. But at the time, I thought I was making sense with everything I was typing. But you could tell even then writing the email, I just was, they must have opened the email and thought, okay, something's wrong with her. We don't know what it is.
Hopefully they knew you and you'd been there a while. It wasn't just, you're brand new on the job and they're like, who hired this woman?
It was like, thank God they knew me because they were like, okay, she must be ill because...
Yeah, this isn't normal. Normally she can handle complete sentences, basic grammar.
And I got to, so that was the April, May, probably we were about June now. And it got to July and I was still unwell. And I was walking about and stuff, but finding that I was getting post-exertional malaise, but didn't know what that was. And so I just knew that I was trying to do stuff because it was the most gorgeous summer, wasn't it? I'd missed all the summer. I was in bed or on the sofa or inside, basically, so unwell. And I remember going out into the garden and thinking, well, my garden, I haven't done any gardening this year. I know what I'll do. I'll order some plants and I'll plant some plants and just make the garden look nice because my family were just in the garden. Oh my God, I was fine planting a few plants, but the next day and probably for about a week afterwards, and I didn't know what that was. I didn't know about chronic fatigue syndrome then, but I was just knocked sideways, bedbound again, just thinking, what? How come I felt all right yesterday, but I didn't tie the two up. So I didn't know about post-exertional malaise. And then my doctor and was trying to explain to her, I've got no energy. I can't drive. I can't walk. If I do something, I feel like I'm, like the gardening. I then was in bed for like a week. What's going on? And she said, I think you might have something called chronic fatigue syndrome. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, okay, right, okay. And she said, but there's such a huge waiting list to be seen. So what we'll do is we'll put you on a list, but you might not be seen for about 4 or 5 months. And hopefully you'll be better by then. So we'll just put you on the list and see what happens. So,
and if you're not, you can come in and we'll have nothing for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it was like she didn't really know much about it. Yeah. No one did. And so I just thought, okay, I'll go on the list, and sort of said to my work, look, I might have this thing called chronic fatigue syndrome. Hopefully that's what it is. Hopefully, I was thinking, now looking back now, for me, that was a good option because it was like, okay, well, I've got a diagnosis. Yeah. Someone's finally telling me what's wrong. And so I just kept trying to do stuff and didn't really understand what I was doing. And then it was my daughter's 21st birthday in the October, and she was in Brighton University, and I had always made cakes and made a big fuss with their birthdays, and so I wanted to make her this amazing 21st birthday cake like you do, thinking, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it because I've got to. It's her birthday and I'm going to take this cake down to Brighton and we're all going to have the most amazing day and I'm going to book a restaurant even though I don't feel like doing it, but I'm going to do it because it's her birthday. And I remember making the cake and my mum had to come and help me, and I remember trying to do it and then having to go and lie down and then getting back up again and trying to do a bit more and do about 5 minutes, and then I'd go and lie down again. And I knew I was pushing, but I didn't realise what the consequences were. And I was just feeling so unwell. And the day that we had to drive down, I was really, really poorly, and I just wanted to stay in bed. And I thought, I've got to get out of bed. I've got to get down there. It's her birthday. We're going out for dinner. And we drove all the way down to Brighton, so unwell. And I got sat in the restaurant. I delivered the cake perfectly. It was all lovely. And we got in the restaurant and I just thought, I'm so ill. I'm going to either pass out or be sick or I don't know what to do. And all I could think of was the only place I could lay down was the toilets. And I thought I need to just go and lay down and otherwise I'm going to pass out. And I got up to go to the toilet to lay in the toilet. And my doctor phoned me out the blue and I had to go outside the front of the restaurant to take the call because there was no signal down the stairs to the toilet. So I turned around and went back outside, and luckily the fresh air just hit me and it sort of brought me. I had a conversation with the doctor about chronic fatigue syndrome and I went back into the restaurant and that fresh air brought me about half an hour, and it was just enough time to sit at the table, pay the bill. I didn't eat any of my food and say goodbye to my daughter and drive home. And then from that day onward, I just had the most horrendous crash, and that was when it all just went absolutely pear-shaped. Like bedbound, nervous system completely shot, couldn't think, couldn't make any decisions, couldn't lift a glass of water up to my mouth even. It was just hideous. I can't even almost go back there because I can't even imagine it was even happening now.
I thought it was interesting that you brought up about, in those early days when you don't make the connections, because I had actually forgot about this. And I was going through my files on my computer a couple of weeks ago, just cleaning them up. And I found a letter that my doctor had asked me to write. It was in with my first few months of being sick. Just asking me to explain what my days and weeks were like so we could put together a case for me being off of work. And it was just like everything was coming at me out of nowhere. Like I'm like, I get up on any given day and I have no idea how it's going to go. Yeah. Some days I'm just leveled. I have no idea why. But it takes another one of those gifts of chronic illness. You get so many chances to learn. But in the beginning, you're like, I don't know why. I have no connection between the planting the plants and me not getting out of bed for a week. Because there's no way planting plants put me in bed for a week. So this just must be some weird thing. And I think that's how we can get ourselves in even more trouble because and everyone is just saying, just exercise or try harder, or you need to go for a walk. So you're like, okay.
That is exactly what happened. And people were saying to me, if you went out in the fresh air, probably you'd feel a bit better. And I was trying to walk. And actually, funny you should say that, that's just brought up a memory. I called a doctor in Harley Street, a chronic fatigue doctor. And I thought, okay, he's gonna tell me everything's going to be fine. And I'm going to be better in about 6 weeks. It's all going to be fine. And he just said, not many people recover from chronic fatigue syndrome. I don't think don't think that you're going to get better from this. And I was like, well, how many people do get better? And he said 5%. I think he said 5%. I can't even remember, to be honest. I just know it was really low. And he said, if I were you, I'd just go and buy this book called Living with Chronic Fatigue Syndrome off Amazon. Good luck, basically. And I thought, oh my God, this is just horrendous. And I just feel like I'd had this breakdown. And it felt like a nervous breakdown. And that's when I then found you online. Because my daughter said there can't be just you that COVID's affected like this. There must be other people out there. And so I found a group on Facebook, and it almost like opened up my eyes to other communities. And I thought, well, this guy's told me no one recovers from chronic fatigue syndrome. I'm going to find people that have recovered. And so I just Google searched, and I was laying in bed, nothing else really to do apart from feel very sorry for myself. And I found you, thank God, and I just related straight away to things that you were saying, especially about adrenal fatigue. That was one video I watched and I thought, maybe that's it. Maybe it's adrenal fatigue, because I'd had a flu jab, and I'd had some steroids for my throat, which the ENT consultant had given me to maybe make it go down a little bit. And I'd had a CT scan with contrast. And I don't know. I just think maybe it was just too much for my system to with all the stress as well. I don't know. I still don't know what happened. But it was after all of those things. I don't know if they were like a domino effect. And so when I saw your video about adrenal fatigue, that made sense to me. And I thought, oh, okay, maybe it's my adrenals have just like flat out, and they just need to be, I just need time to get better. So I just really went into survival from there, really, I think.
And what did that look like?
That was just really finding people online. So there was you, and then I remember you interviewed someone called Liz, who's also here with Liz.
Yeah.
And I saw
Hi,
her.
Liz.
Hi, Liz.
We're friends now. I love her.
I know. I've seen, and also Pamela Rose. So I found her.
Hi, Pamela. Yes, we're also friends now. Also love her.
So I found her in the January. So probably. And also Alex Howard from the Optimum Health Clinic. So someone recommended me the Optimum Health Clinic and said, get yourself a nutritionist, go to the Optimum Health Clinic. Alex Howard's amazing. And so all these people came at just the right time. I just found everything I needed right at the right time, I think. And so I found it very cathartic listening to Alex Howard, listening to your videos. And I still, when I hear your voice, it sounds very silly, but I think back then I just needed anything. And now I find, because I was so hopeful seeing your videos and listening to Alex Howard and all of and everything, that all the videos that he sent me from joining the Optimum Health Clinic, find your voice is really cathartic, and it almost signals healing to me looking back now, because that was the time, that was the beginning of the new beginning. So yeah, thank you.
I don't know if that was meant to be a compliment, but it feels like one of the nicest ones I've ever gotten. So thank you. I appreciate you sharing all of that.
No, I appreciate everything that you do, because without you, I think I was just completely lost, and I had no hope at all. There was no one telling me it's going to be okay, it's fine. Everyone I spoke to, even doctors, were saying, sorry. Somebody
somewhere, no one seems to really know where it came from, but I'm sure you figured this out too. Put that stat out that only 5% of people recover. Someone threw it out there. I'm not sure what it's based on, but then people have just been regurgitating it for probably decades now. And it's not based on any statistics. I always say there's so many of us that have recovered, and not a single one of us is being counted anywhere. No one's asked us. And most of us do it outside of mainstream medicine. So maybe if we're just looking what GPs and conventional medicine is reporting for recovery, perhaps that's accurate. But overall, I mean, I don't know. I can only guess, but there's no way it's 5%. And it's growing so much with each passing, week, month, year. So many people are finding things that work. So just in case you're watching and you're hearing this stupid 5% stat, do not pay attention to it. It's, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, it's garbage and it's baseless. And so don't let it discourage you.
I found that people can learn, and I did this, is that you learn to find a level of life that you can live, and it's not all horrendous. That's like the darkest depths of despair, but it doesn't last that long, because that's, you start from there, and as long as you strip right back to nothing. And I think that's what I found with Pamela, actually. I just didn't know what baseline even meant. I didn't know what that meant. And people were saying, do pacing and find your baseline. And I was thinking, well, what's a baseline? I don't know what my baseline even is, because I can't do anything. So what is my baseline? And I remember her saying, what you're feeling is not forever. It's for now. So just accept where you are. Because I was like, I can't do this. I had a job. I've had to give up my job. And I'm meant to be starting at this college. And she was like, accept that this is where you are now, but it's not forever. I'll just always remember that. And that was really where I then found a baseline, which was nothing. It was nothing, doing nothing. But I could work from that. It was like, okay, well, I know now that if I do nothing, I can have quite a reasonable day. I don't feel rubbish. I do feel rubbish, but I didn't feel like I was
in a crash, with that. Like, I heard someone explain it like an elephant sitting on you, like that feeling when you've overdone it. It's just...
Yeah. And I could sit in bed and actually, although I wasn't doing anything else, I didn't feel really, really, really awful. I could just sit in bed and it was fine. But it was doing things then, once I started doing things. And I had conflicting advice, because one of the ladies, actually, that I was talking to through one of the clinics said to me, my legs were agony as well. They were really painful. And she said, until your legs don't hurt anymore, don't walk on them, because they're almost like warning you. So I didn't walk for 3 months, and think my husband took me out in a wheelchair once, which was horrendous, but he just wanted to get me out of the house, and he bought a wheelchair online and just said, look, I've got you this wheelchair. And he was really excited, and I was thinking, oh my God, this is just horrendous. How has my life come to this? But I went out, and it was nice to be out, actually. But actually, him pushing me around in the wheelchair, we went on a dog walk, the reverberation of the wheels on the, on the gravel was then upsetting my nerve. It was just, and I felt like I can't say to him, oh God, that was actually making me feel worse. But it wasn't like a smooth, and I just felt sorry for everybody that's ever had to be in a wheelchair or be pushed around by their partner or have chronic fatigue syndrome. And I just had this deeper understanding and empathy for anybody going through anything like that. But so I digress. The lady told me not to walk, and I found this girl on online called Sophie. She's on Instagram. So Abs, I think she is on Instagram.
Oh yeah, she's been on the channel before a couple times. Yeah, I'll link her interview here.
Wow, I got a free booklet from her, and I arranged a phone call with her, and she said to me, you've got to start moving. You cannot not move, because it's all about muscle memory. And she said, even if you just do a couple of steps, you've got to get out of bed and move and start, 30 seconds walking and then get back into bed or whatever you're doing. But you can't just lay in bed, because you'll never get better. And so I devised this little plan for myself from talking to her for walking, and I just started to feel better I remember it had snowed outside, and I was just looking out the window at the snow, thinking about all the times we used to go out sledging, and I thought, I'm going to start today. And I just went out in the snow on the front lawn and just timed it. I was like religious on my phone, timed 30 seconds, and just went out on the front lawn and walked in the snow and made footprints and came back in and then returned back to the sofa. But that was great. It was 30 seconds. And the next day I thought, okay, well, nothing majorly bad's happened. I don't feel really terrible. And so I just made a plan from then on that I'll do that every day, 30 seconds. And I don't think I did do it every day. I think some days I did think, okay, not today. But mostly I tried to do it. And then eventually I got up to 40 seconds and then a minute. And then I think it got 6 months it took me to get to 20 minutes.
Wow.
But it was amazing. Going out for 20 minutes, it was just the best feeling ever. And I remember being with Pamela and going on one of her group chats and saying, I've been outside for 20 minutes walking. And I think it was 10 minutes then when I was with her. And I tried to go an extra couple of minutes because the sun was shining, and I thought, I feel really good today. I'm going to walk even further and get to the end of the road. And it was just too much. Mm-hmm. And I remember saying to Pamela, it was literally 2 minutes more. But it was a learning curve, and I just learned, okay, well, 2 minutes is too much, but 30 seconds is okay. So I just upped it 30 seconds, and eventually that's how I got walking again. Thanks to Sophie, really.
That's amazing. That sounds a lot like my recovery journey. And I do remember that, you stay careful and safe and you just teeny tiny increments up, but you're always kind of pushing your limits a little bit. And the only way to really test your limits is to every once in a while go a little bit too far. And it sucks, but just remind yourself in that moment, like, okay, that was too much. Lesson learned, I won't ever go up that much at a time.
Yeah.
But that's incredible. So were there other things that you did that also helped you with your recovery?
Oh God. I did so many things because I was so desperate, and I think I just took bits from everybody. And so I knew that it was my autonomic. By this time I'd done so much research, and I thought, okay, I think my nervous system's shot because I was starting to be able to make decisions again. But I knew when at my worst, and even when I was getting a little bit better from that, I knew that I couldn't cope with any bad news. So if somebody came to me with anything bad, I was worried about one of the family becoming ill, because I thought, I'm on the precipice of having a nervous breakdown, and if anyone comes to me with something stressful, I'm just going to go over the edge. And I was just crying all the time anyway. It was just horrendous, I think. And I had never had anxiety before, had the most horrendous anxiety and depression. And my son used to come backwards and forwards from university, and every time he left, I would just burst into tears. And I think it was just even just saying goodbye to him. And he wasn't doing anything. He was literally going down to Brighton. He was an hour away. But everything was just so distressing for me. I was just everything would just make me upset, and I knew that I couldn't. So I knew I had to work on my nervous system and mindset. And I think Alex Howard started me off on that with the whole mindset approach and calming the nervous system and your parasympathetic state and your sympathetic state. And so I started doing the breathing exercises and the meditation, and thanks to Liz, affirmations. And I remember her doing a chat with you, and she wanted to do she did a vision board, and she was paddleboarding, and I remember thinking, I've never done paddleboarding, but that looks amazing, and I'm going to do a vision board and I'm going to do paddleboarding when I'm better. That is going to be me. And I had it on my vision board. I created one, and I remember it had paddleboarding on it, and it had my renewal of my vows with my husband, because our 25th wedding anniversary was coming up, and I also had a porn star martini on there. When I'm better, I'm going to have that. I'm going to have the porn star martini.
Thank you for keeping it real. You weren't working towards a celery juice at the end of the tunnel?
My priorities were, I'm going to get back to me how I was.
What is a porn star martini?
It's passion fruit juice, vodka,
Okay.
Vanilla syrup, and it's got like a half a passion fruit in it. And sometimes it's got like a bit of vodka in, and they set light to the vodka in the passion fruit. Oh, it's just a side shot of Prosecco on the side.
Wow, why isn't this on my vision board next year?
Yes.
Okay.
But yeah, I remember seeing Liz do that, and I thought that I'm going to do that, and that's going to make me. And I remember doing the affirmations and just changing my mindset, because I used to wake up in the morning thinking, I'm ill again. Oh my God, I'm still ill. This is horrendous. I'm never going to get better. And I changed that to, I deserve to be happy. I'm doing everything in my power to make myself healthy. And just affirmations like that. And after about, I'd say 6 weeks, I was a different person, and I'd changed everything. I'd calmed down. I felt calmer. I felt like my nervous system was calmer. I was walking, so I was getting out in the fresh air. I had hope. I had a nutritionist, so I was doing, like, I'd cut everything out. My gut was also horrendous. That was just a mess. And my doctor did all the tests and was like, everything's come back clear, you're all fine. And I was thinking, well, it's not fine. And so I did a Heal the Gut program with the nutritionist, which was 12 weeks. And I just seemed to just start feeling better. I had the support of Pamela's group, watching recovery videos, which was amazing, and just working on the nervous system. And I think it was all of that stuff, really, pacing, knowing what was a big task and what was a medium-sized task and what was a small task. And if I was going to do a big task, like make dinner, then I had to cut something else out. Showering was a mega task, because drying this hair, I've got so much hair. I remember having a shower and I just couldn't dry my hair, even lifting the hairdryer. I couldn't lift the brush on the hairdryer. And I remember just crying, and my husband coming in and saying, what's wrong? And I was like, I can't dry my hair. I've got no energy. And he just took the hairdryer off me and tried to blow dry my hair as best he could.
I really wish do you have a video of that? I would love to be able to put that up as B-roll right now.
I know, I should have videoed it.
Sorry, I don't even know your husband. I'm sure that was exactly what he looks like. I'm so sorry, Donna's husband. It's all the husbands out there.
I know, he was just trying his best, and he dried my hair. I can't say that it was styled. It was dry, enough for me to go back to bed. But yeah, just things like that, really. I then began to be able to do things like that. And I had this little routine where I'd get out of bed and I'd go and have a bath, and that would help my legs in a magnesium salt bath. And then I'd rest. And then jigsaws became a thing. I've never done a jigsaw ever. I had a jigsaw on the side, and I used to do a bit of a jigsaw for about half an hour. And then I'd, again, lay down, rest, get back up, maybe make myself a ginger tea, we bought a camper van. My husband actually changed his car for a camper van so that we could just go out driving. It had a bed in the back, it had a kitchen, and he used to drive this little van around and just park up, and he'd take the dogs for a walk and I would just lay in the bed. But it was getting me out, and so I'd then go, it was on the driveway, and I'd go and sit in the camper van just to be outside with the windows down and the door open, and just sit on the driveway with my lemon and ginger tea for an hour, come back in, rest. And that was really my days, but it got better and better and better, and I could add more things in eventually. So
it reminds me of someone. I interviewed someone on my channel named Katie, and we've since become friends. Hi, Katie. And she would talk about, like, she made a comment about bookends. She's like, everything in my life has activity bookends. And it got me on this thing of like rest bookends. And I've done videos about it. We'll link it. But even now, and then once I got better, I seem to think that stopped applying. But I've only recently, in the last few months, started bringing it back in, because it really is just an approach for life. It's going to look different when you're sick. But if I have something, big and full on and intense, humans need to rest after. Like, what have you loaded up after it? So that's what it sounded like when you were describing how you're approaching your days, and how that helped you finally be able to stop, spending more energy than you had.
Yeah, I think I still apply that now. I still think, okay, well, I'm going on a nice big long walk, hopefully with the dogs. But I still think, okay, well, I'll make sure I'm not doing much else that afternoon. I'm still careful. Even though I consider myself recovered, I'm still careful, and I still do have twinge. If I overdo things, I do still have little warning signs, I would call them. But I still don't know if that's my own nervous system.
Yeah.
Or whether it really is something, I don't know. There's lots of these things with the lightning process, and lots of people have done all this work, haven't they? And they say that it's your own, brain giving you symptoms. So I don't know. Is it me? Are they real symptoms? I don't. That's something else I need to work on maybe. But I have done a lot of training now. I gave up my job after 18 months. They were brilliant. They paid me for 18 months. And full pay, and I just, in the end, I couldn't even drive to work, let alone work. I had tried before I had the major crash. I tried, and I drove there, and it was only about 10 minutes away. And I got there, and I just thought, I just can't. I'm exhausted. I can't even think about working now. It felt like I'd already done my day's work just driving there. And so it got to 18 months, and I just felt so sorry for my colleague. She was desperate for me to go back, and I loved my job, and I just thought, I can't give you the same person that I was before. Yeah. And I was just devastated, and I had to hand my notice in just for them, really. And then as I was recovering, I started a coaching course, because I was helping people. I'd become a part of this buddy system where you buddy up with people who have got long COVID, and I was trying to help them. They were right at the beginning of their journey, and so it was just having someone. I thought I was just being someone that would go, I know what you're going through. I know how you feel. It's horrendous, but it's not forever. It's for now. And I just wanted to be like a buddy for somebody that I never had. And so I thought, I need to back that up with a qualification, really. And I'm not doing anything. I'm at home. I can do a course online. And I started doing a coaching course, a life coaching course, and quickly realised that coaching is not mentoring. And they told me quickly, they were like, it sounds like you're mentoring. Coaching's not mentoring. Coaching's all about the other person, and you don't give them any advice. And I thought, oh no, I've signed up. I've signed up now. But I actually fell in love with coaching, and now I'm a qualified life coach, and I help people with anxiety. Because I'd never had anxiety before, and it just hit me like a train, and I had no help, no idea how bad anxiety. Well, people had said to me they've got anxiety before, and I'd think, oh come on, sort of pull yourself together mentality. And then when I suffered anxiety myself, I thought, oh my God, this is just horrendous. I feel so sorry for anyone with it, and I understand it so much more. And so I just want to help people with anxiety, or anything to do with all this chronic health that nobody has a clue about until you've had it yourself.
So for people who are in it still and who are watching, what would you want to say to them?
I would just say something that Alex Howard has always said that just resonates with me, in that your body is built to heal. It's built to get better, and so, but you have to be in a healing state to be able to do that. And I feel like I wasn't in a healing state until all of that fell into place. And I think if people know that from the beginning, so not in a stress state, you've got to be in a healing state to be able to heal. And it's scientifically proven that if you're in a healing state, you will actually get better quicker. So I would just say that, to just work on your, getting into that state.
I think that's probably the most important thing to share from all the interviews that I've done. I think that's the most important takeaway, is the importance of things that we discount, like meditation and journaling and just having all these strategies to deal with stress throughout the day, and affirmations and all that stuff. So yeah, I think that's perfect. And for those of you watching, on the screen and in the video description, you will find all of Donna's information. So if you want to find out about her coaching or follow her or learn more or connect with her, all of that is there. So a bazillion thanks to you, Donna. This was brilliant. I think lots of people are going to appreciate this and find this relatable. I know I did. I appreciate the humility and the honesty that you shared all this. So thank you. Thank you for this.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
And thank you to all of you who are watching. So many of us, all these people I've been mentioning, and so many more have become friends just because of our connection and this amazing community. So thank you to all of you. Keep at it. You've totally got this. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got something out of it. And as always, I hope to see you in the next one.